All right. Hello, everybody. So we're going right into it. The Trump administration announced this morning that they're pulling out ICE operations in Minnesota. Here's the clip. Go right into it.
Be coming to a close. The Trump administration border czar Tom Homan just announcing that after discussing the situation with President Trump, that they've concluded the surge operation in Minnesota will conclude. Homan addressing reporters this morning. This was at the Whipple Federal Building. He said that a significant drawdown of ICE agents is already underway this week and will continue into next week. He cited cooperation with state and local leaders, including jails, for the drawdown, along with what he called the end of unlawful and violent agitator activity. Now, Homan said that they've arrested more than 4,000 people since the start of Operation Metro Surge. He said ICE activity in Minnesota has greatly reduced the number of targets for law enforcement action. And he said the Twin Cities in general will be much safer after what they've accomplished.
So, Eric, we're halfway through optics. What do you think? Do you think?
Pick your side.
Right?
Pick your side. I guarantee that people on the right say, finish the job, victory, wrapped it up, moving on. If you're on the left, you're going to say, he surrendered like a little bitch.
I think it's almost like a damned if you do and damned if you don't approach, because let's say, for instance, this had to end eventually, right? That's why it's called the surge.
Right.
Surge didn't come out. So, but now it's kind of like, is this because it's we're truly trying to figure out the motive, right? Is it because they were getting kind of clapped back, or is it because of this? But I don't know. I think at a point it's over. It's over, and you know, I think it's easy to try to say one side won a loss, but if you've arrested 4,000 people and you did, it just seems like you're good, right? I don't see why this is so crazy.
Well, I agree, and there's a couple philosophies I always like. You've got the law of diminishing returns, which would mean, you know, there's a certain point where you have to put in more and more money and effort and things like that to get a smaller and smaller and smaller payback. And then you also have something called sunk cost fallacy. Both of these could potentially be in that regard, if you will. So as an example, if things are going tits up there and they weren't going well for a little bit, there is a chance of like, okay, are you here doing it because you're just so proud and you don't want to look bad? So, you know, just like Vietnam, you keep going at it because you're like, I've already sunk this cost into it. I'm not going to give up now. Or, you know, the alternative where it's like, okay, we've got most of what we want. You know, we're clearing out the jails. They're finally cooperating with us. We've got 80-90% of what we want to do. It costs us too much to keep going here. Let's go somewhere else where we can get a lot bigger bounty with our investment. So I think both things could be true at the same time.
Yeah. I don't think they're exclusive. In other words, we've done what we achieved to accomplish. We're going to draw it down, but also this other side, because the other side's going to claim victory, right? We got them out. So
right, and
a small footprint of personnel will remain for a period of time to close out and transition full command and control back to the field office, as well as to ensure agitator activity continues to decline, and that state and local law enforcement continue to respond to ensure officer and community safety. Additionally, federal government personnel assigned to conduct criminal investigation into the agitators, as well as the personnel assigned here for the fraud investigations, will remain in place until their work is done.
Now, Holman said he will remain on the ground for a little longer to oversee that drawdown.
He also addressed what he called unfounded complaints against ICE activities, saying agents have not arrested anyone inside hospitals, churches, or elementary schools. I think it's important we take a look at how we got here. This operation started back on December 1st after Minnesota fraud cases and accusations came into the national spotlight. And then on January 5th, the Trump administration sent 2,000 additional agents to the Twin Cities. 2 days later, an ICE agent shot and killed Renee Good. Fast forward to January 15th, an ICE officer shot a man in the leg. That was during an alleged shovel attack.
And then January 24th, Border Patrol agents shot and killed Alex Preddy. 2 days later, that's when we learned border czar Tom Homan would take over the operation. Now, last Wednesday, Homan announced a drawdown of 700 federal agents. Now, today, The operation, he says, will conclude.
There's some new polling that shows how Minnesotans feel about ICE in our state. When asked about the tactics used by federal officers, 66% said they've gone too far, 10% said they haven't gone far enough, and 23% said they've been just about right.
Let's say you take this poll in Texas, these numbers would be totally reversed.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, these numbers would be totally reversed. So what do you think about what you just heard? Do you think
well, I think about it, and perhaps I'm getting to the point where I think the best policy is going to have both sides not happy. So sometimes that the decisions that you make are going to have both sides aggrieved at parts of it. I don't know what else they're going to do in Minnesota. They did not exactly just quit immediately. They sent Tom Homan there. They recalibrated. And I don't necessarily want to give credit, but the locals did step up. The local police were starting to stop the protesters and starting to interfere and things like that. So it seems like in the end, like the past couple weeks or whatever, there's been actual cooperation between the federal and the state. Maybe it's time to wrap it up. That's fine. There are 49 other states that we can focus on.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. And I think at the end of the day, the politics of this obviously look bad. The Renee Good shooting, the ICE being in mask and all that stuff. So
it was Border Patrol and not ICE. And that was another pain in the ass, because ICE catches all the blame, but Alex Preddy was Border Patrol, not ICE. So that's another little bit of a misnomer.
And I'm also shocked that federal agents, and I know people that I'm gonna get killed for saying this. I know I'm gonna get killed by the Democrats for saying this. I understand I'm gonna be called a racist and all that other stuff, but I think it needs to be said. ICE are federal law enforcement agencies. Yes. They're doing they're doing their job. There's laws that are passed by Congress that says if people are here illegally, you kick them out. These people have sworn an oath to go there and do this, and to say that they're the Gestapo. They say, like, it's the language that I think is being used. It's almost like people are trying to make it seem like they're at war with ICE. And the simple rationale is that if you're here legally, if you've gone through the process, if you haven't overstayed your visa, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. It's almost like it's like they want to defend the criminals and essentially say, we don't want you to enforce the law. But then where's that leave us? It's so weird, because at the most simplest piece of this is that people are being, the Trump administration and ICE protest stuff. The Trump administration is simply saying we're going to hold people accountable for what they've done in the past. That's it, right? If you've done this, we're going to hold you accountable. And that's the divide. We don't want to hold people accountable. And the same thing like we were talking about with voter ID and all that stuff. It's as soon as you say we're going to hold people accountable for their actions, that's when you have this big issue all of a sudden. So
Trump's really just following the same policy that existed under Obama, to be fair.
Actually, Obama was doing it. Obama was doing it better. But I think,
well, whatever. It's the same enforcement. It's the same wrapping up of people. All of that. It's just what are the optics? And I do think there is a pretty funny joke in the sense that if Trump said it's good to breathe, a lot of people would suffocate. I mean, whatever.
You're 1,000% right. And to be fair, a lot of Obama numbers, like I was looking into some of them are questionable, but Trump used the same logic with his numbers. So sure. I got to take them on face value.
But they're directionally the same.
Yeah.
They're both about deporting people. We can quibble about numbers and methodology and all that, but directionally, the attitude and what is trying to be accomplished, I think, is the same basic task. It was, Biden that turned everything on its head, and instead of like trying to control to any degree, it was just an incredibly permissive policy where it was not only allowing, but almost encouraging and welcoming as many illegals as possible. It was absolute reverse of both Obama and Trump.
Well, I want to say the insidiousness of what Biden was doing, I think most people don't realize. Because Biden, essentially, what he did was, before Biden got in office, Trump had the remain in Mexico policy, where let's say you come in and you say, I want asylum.
Yes.
And they would say, you stay in Mexico.
Yep.
And
your
when you're
appointment date, come
and when
see
your
us at that
appointment
date.
date, and those appointment dates were like a year, 2 years in advance, right? There was
Whatever,
like a million people on that waiting list. And the reason for that is because, based on like international law, if you're running from, let's say, Venezuela, and then you go through Colombia, then you go through Guatemala, you're supposed to seek sanctuary in the first state that you go to. But people going
wherever you're safe. If you're under threat in El Salvador, you're probably safe in Mexico.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these people were going all the way through to Mexico and then trying to seek asylum here in the United States. So Trump was like, okay, let's look at your asylum claims, but you stay in Mexico because it's safe in Mexico. The next thing we had was, then when Biden comes in, Biden says, if you come to the border and say, I want asylum, we're going to let you in. And then give you the date.
And when then please come to your appointment. Please come to your appointment. We know we can count on you. You're going to come to that appointment. The other asylum question, you bring that up. That's a great point. Well, if you're under asylum,
Mexico is safe. Mexico is safe if you're
depends
running
on where
from
you
the
are.
Venezuelan government. It's safe, yeah, for those people. Those countries, you don't get to just say none of these countries are safe. Mexico, by the standards we're looking at, is safe for this particular point.
As well as many other South American and Central American countries, as well as Canada. The point is, too, because you are in danger in your country doesn't mean you have to go to the United States. For example, there were many people, Gad Saad. Have you ever heard of Gad Saad?
Yeah.
Okay, he came out of Lebanon, right? Lebanon was not a safe place in the 70s. I think everybody would agree. He ran. Where did he go? Canada. Okay. The idea of asylum and safety is whatever country you can get to who will take you in and you will be safe. It's not necessarily the United States. The United States is not the capture point or the place for all people who are feeling unsafe in the world. It's one of, how many countries do we have? Over 200 countries in the world?
Over 200 countries recognized, yeah.
So there were many other options, and why not spread the wealth?
And usually it's you try to go to the closest country to you. So because asylum is it's a temporary thing, right? You come here and things change in your place, you go back, right? It's not supposed to be forever thing. But Biden used it forever. So what Biden did was say, we're going to let millions of people in. Yeah. And then while they're in here, we can't kick them out because they've got asylum claims. Now you get the due process rights. Yeah. And now since you got those due process rights, we're going to put your immigration thing for 4 years or 5 years. Mm-hmm. So now you can at least stay here and do all that stuff for 5-6 years while your asylum claim is being held. Now, with Trump, what Trump essentially did was say, okay, you're going to play that game. We're going to hire immigration. What do you call them? He calls them deportation judges. So their whole job is to just hear all those asylum claims. Okay, great. Deported. Mm-hmm. And now that's why people are upset now, because he's just deporting everybody. Okay, you claim asylum from Venezuela, deported. So now you have millions of people here who are at risk of being deported because essentially their time is up. Mm-hmm. They're seeing the deportation.
Yeah.
So and I do love the fact that because they sent all of these asylum seekers to those cities like New York and Chicago, now those cities are mired in huge amounts of debt. Chicago, $600 million. New York, $12 billion, and all that's money that they gave away on illegal migrants. It's crazy.
You know who deserves complete credit for all of this? He was brilliant. Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott, when he bussed people, especially to where was it in Massachusetts?
Boston.
Not Boston. The rich community that's on the island. Where?
Oh no, that wasn't him. That was the other guy.
I thought it was Abbott.
From Florida. No, that was
DeSantis.
DeSantis. He sent them to Nantucket or the Hamptons. He sent them to the Hamptons.
No, the Hamptons is in New York, but it doesn't matter. But both of them bust illegals to quote unquote what do they call this? Safe cities.
Yeah, they're right. Martha's Vineyard. It was
Martha's Vineyard. Thank you.
It was Martha's Vineyard. Yep, they're right.
And I thought that was Abbott. It could have been DeSantis. I believe Abbott did start busing everybody up to the Northeast, like New York or whatever. And these are sanctuary cities. So that was brilliant too. It's like, oh, you know what? These are sanctuary cities. Let's go ahead and ship any and all illegals to the sanctuary cities. It's cheap. It doesn't cost that much money to ship people on a bus, a couple few $100s. And if you do it in quantity, here you go. And that fell into the principle, something I love talking about called NIMBY. You've heard of NIMBY,
not in
right?
My backyard.
Yes, not in my backyard. And I've always said that, for example, people who love the homeless so much and they want to coddle everything should have a shelter in their neighborhood. And then the right wing who loves prisons so much need to have a prison near their neighborhoods. I always believe in that. It's like if you love something, you should have it near you. You should definitely have it in your backyard. And it might make you hesitant to try to do all of these. So that targeted NIMBY completely. And the Martha's Vineyard, it made them bonkers. They're like,
here's the clip. I found the clip while you were talking. I was like, I'm gonna find this clip.
Hero.
So I found it. Here it is.
Breaking news tonight concerning actions taken by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Congress confirms that he sent 2 private planes carrying almost 50 undocumented migrants to Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. The group includes children. CBS 4's Carly Barnett is in the newsroom gathering the latest on the story. Carly?
Elliot, we've been following the latest developments on this. The planes landed
tragic.
later in the afternoon.
She's so
and
serious.
Some of the migrants told the translators there that they didn't even know
children.
where they were after the planes landed. They were simply released. Emergency local.
Now hold on, mind you, these people have just walked the Darien Gap through South America. And they get here and they say, we're going to put you on a private plane and send you to Martha's Vineyard. Sign me up.
Who cares? They want to get to the U.S. They didn't specify where. I mean, come on.
I'll take that gamble. Like you send me to Martha's Vineyard on a private jet after what I just went through? Hell to the yeah. Sign me up, right?
That's where the money is. I mean, think of all the work that's technically available, potentially in the area for yard work, whatever.
Give me a one for anybody in the chat. Give me a one right now. If someone offered you a private jet flight to Martha's Vineyard and says that they're going to take care of you, I would take that right now, especially after traveling so far up the Darien
Officials
Gap.
saying that they had no idea this was going to happen. They are now providing shelter. The Massachusetts.
I always loved the whole we had no idea this was going to happen. Just like, for instance, like the people in Texas had no idea these people were coming, right? They didn't come and it's like, you got to take care of them. But they got no idea. So now it's like, oh, well, let us know. No, they came. We put them on a plane and sent them to you. We didn't.
The governor's office says they are also providing support, but it's not enough, they say, given the lack of advanced warning.
Which, by the way, and
we don't have enough money. We don't have enough.
It just continued with New York. Remember, Adams was like, hey, we welcome them. We welcome them. And they were putting them up in hotels. And then they were sent there. And then he said, oh, he got the bill and suddenly became conservative overnight and said, yeah, this isn't working. And so then Adams flipped. That's when Adams got into a lot of trouble, is when he flipped on immigration. Then they started to look into his patterns and what he was doing.
What do you mean he was
very
indicted?
aggressively?
Let's call it what it is. He was indicted on federal charges.
100%. Now, I'm not saying he wasn't guilty of it. He potentially did a lot of stuff, but I'm saying that his moves and his statements going against the immigration damn sure brought that magnifying glass around really quickly for the Biden administration.
All of a sudden, he's indicted on federal charges and looking at prison time. He's like, oh, this is going to destroy New York City. Shut up. That's what they told Eric Adams. And so here it is. In New York, they went all in. Like they were literally upscale.
The Row NYC, formerly the Milford Plaza, used to be one of Times Square's most popular hotels.
Come on along.
They called it the Lullaby on Broadway.
Lullaby of Broadway.
But nowadays, Mayor Eric Adams has a whole new idea for this Broadway mainstay, housing upwards of 600 migrant families in a portion of this hotel, alongside tourists and locals alike. Do you think that's a good plan?
Yes, I do. I think it's a wonderful plan.
Now, people have to understand that's $600. $600 a night at these hotels. So understand that, and that's what she's agreeing to. This is okay.
And if you're a migrant, the Row NYC is not a bad place to be. The 28-story, 1,300-room building is located about 3 blocks north of the Port Authority bus terminal, where Texas Governor Greg Abbott has been sending busloads of migrants in protest of what he calls President Biden's, quote, irresponsible open border policies. If you come across the border illegally, you get to stay here for free. Is that fair?
Let's go back to Mexico and then come back. Right?
The daily weekday rate for a standard room with 1 full or queen size bed in mid-September, around the same time the hotel could begin.
Look at that room. Dude, I can't stay there. When you and I travel, do we stay in places like that?
$35
come
per
on.
night.
I'm a king in the Motel 6. As a matter of fact, it's so common somebody calls it the Hunley 6. And that's where I stay.
We should have told them we were migrants, right? If I was traveling to New York, hey, I'm a migrant. I just came over the border.
I mean, it's free, man. It's free.
Yeah, not only free, and they're going to give me a $600 card for food. So, yeah. Now, listen, people. For those people in New York who are okay with paying for this, like that woman, more power to you.
Yeah,
you are a credit to the American people. But
I want to see what taxes. I want to see what taxes she pays.
Yeah, don't let me pay for it, right? Somebody else pays for it. As long as somebody else is paying for it, it's fine. I don't want to pay for it. And I don't think my politician should force me to pay $400 a night for people who just come over the border.
Come on, just stretch it out a little bit. Somebody broke it down. Over $100,000 a month. Think about it.
That's crazy. So we'll see how all of this works out. So now, are we on to the next issue? Well, you know what? Let me just play this. So we're going to open this up. We're going to talk about the SAVE Act because everybody kept saying the SAVE Act, the SAVE Act, the SAVE Act. So we're going to move to the SAVE Act. And this is Scott Jennings on CNN. For those of you who don't know, this is about voting ID because that's back in the news. So voting ID, Democrats say racist, illegal, Jim Crow. Republicans say voter security, blah, 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 blah. Here is them arguing about the SAVE Act, which, if passed, would force everybody to be ID'd as American citizens before you vote.
Now, hold on. For all those who are watching live, let's see if you can predict. Wonder what side she's going to come down on. What do you think she's going to say? She's going to be like, you know what? I think it's time. I think it's time for the SAVE Act to take place. We're ready. As a country, we are ready. That's what she's going to say, right?
Let's hear it.
What voting rights is he taking away from black voters?
Oh, if we look at
the SAVE Act?
The SAVE Act, that's exactly what we're talking about. That is actually going to continue to disenfranchise overwhelmingly a lot of people of color. There are so many civil rights organizations that have run the data. If we look at the way that it is going to disenfranchise black voters, it's the same reason.
Yeah, he's like, asked how to, but she's probably going to explain it now. So
why Chuck Schumer called it Jim Crow 2.0. So this is the same president. If we want to continue,
you haven't said how yet.
I am talking about it. It's the way that you're putting new poll taxes on this when you're making people have. That's what we can call them now. It's kind of an idiom, right? If you want to say that people have to prove that they are citizens.
Would that be an idiom or an idiot? I vote the latter for her.
But hold on. Even though I hate doing this, I'm gonna go back a little bit because look at the way she describes what a poll tax is. A poll tax is I have to pay you money to vote, or I have to pay some money. So if you're saying you are required to have an ID to vote, and you got to pay $1 million for that ID,
then that would be, right? and that did occur at one time. They had IDs that cost more money, that was tough for people. And that was seen as a hidden poll tax. So she's trying to, go back, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and pretend it's current.
But now when you're born, you get a birth certificate. That birth certificate is logged with the state. It's not a poll tax, right? Because you get it for free. You just take it. And many states have ID cards and voter ID cards that don't cost you anything, because of your voting ID, like when you go, and you can, in general, you can even see it with voter registration cards. I don't know if people used to, back in the day, when you registered to vote, they used to give you a card, and that card would say you're registered to vote, and it has your signature on it and all that stuff. And those were free. So that's generally, like in Georgia, you get a free voter ID card. So listen to the way she defines poll tax.
To prove with a voter ID The reality have to prove that they are citizens. Given this, when you're making people have, that's what we can call them now. It's kind of an idiom, right? If you want to say that people have to prove that they are citizens, that they have to prove with a voter ID. The reality is you're layering what is a constitutional.
Pause. She's saying it like that's a problem. You have to prove that you're eligible to vote. What's the problem? I want to go buy beer. I have to prove that I'm eligible to buy beer. I want to buy cigarettes. You got to be 18 to do that. You got to be 18 to vote. Let's just say I want to prove that I'm old enough to vote. How would I do that, Nate? How could I prove that I'm of age to go vote? Oh, maybe my ID.
This is starting to become like lunacy. It just is. It's starting to become lunacy because it makes no sense that they are literally claiming that a poll tax is verifying that you are a citizen in the United States. That's essentially what they're saying. Verifying that you're a citizen and or have the ability to vote is a poll tax, which just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. And I don't know why people buy into this crap. I just don't know why. But let's see what let's hear it. Let's hear it because she has not described what a poll tax is.
Oh, you mean she hasn't answered why yet?
She's only thing she said is it's unconstitutional and disproportionate to ask people to verify their citizens before voting. How
Which
else
is
would you do it?
False, completely false. But,
It makes no sense.
Right for the American people and making it harder for people to vote in this country, and it's going to disenfranchise Black voters.
Concern you that you're making all these claims? You've yet to lay out how it's hurting anyone, but 76% of Black voters think we should show an ID to vote. 80% of Hispanic voters, 83% of the American people.
You know what that look is? She got to look like, oh shit.
No,
he's slapping me with the facts. She put her face up a little bit more. Hit me more with the facts.
She's eating a lemon. She's got that lemon though, like she's just gearing up to lay into him though too. That's a sour taste.
I know he's feeding it to her. He's feeding her those lemons. Oh, let's hit the facts. 76% of Black people. Oh, 80% of Hispanics. It's tough. It's tough.
Are you saying that Black voters
the
are
SAVE
too
Act
dumb
isn't
to know
just,
what's good for them? I mean,
the
it
SAVE Act
sounds
isn't
pretty,
just about
it sounds pretty condescending to me.
Now, Abby,
jump in, Abby. Jump in, Abby. Save her.
Captain Saver.
Yeah, 3/4 of Black voters
that is not
who want voter ID.
But to be clear, the SAVE Act is not just about ideas. The SAVE Act is about proof of citizenship.
So what?
Yeah, it makes sense. All right. How am I getting this wrong? Only citizens can vote in the United States, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
A true statement? So to demand
at least federally.
Yes. So now to show that you are a citizen, I would like you to prove it.
Right?
Well,
more than that,
right?
Nate, hold on. It's more. It's proving actually more than being a citizen, and I think that's why I brought up. Are you old enough to vote? Not everybody can vote. Anybody under 18 cannot legally vote. So you have to prove that you're old enough. Just like if you're buying cigarettes, you have to prove you're old enough. Correct.
Correct.
So that's one reason. Number two, are you eligible to vote in this particular state? Okay, I'm from Arizona. If I'm in Virginia and I am not a resident of Virginia, I can't be voting in Virginia. I might have already voted in Arizona.
Yep.
So again, there are more reasons than just are you a citizen? That obviously the citizenship, is kind of a bottom level principle.
Yeah, it essentially their argument is we just want anybody to vote. We don't want nobody to be questioned, and we don't want your citizenship. I don't know why that's the case. It's almost like the immigration case. Let everybody come across, and then it's like, oh, are we going to take any people? It's kind of like, let everybody vote. Oh, we have so much voter fraud. How do we know these people? It's like you see a hole in your system, and you try to fix it, and now they're saying, don't fix it. We're just going to let it go.
I would go further. They actually want a specific type of person to vote. Let me give you some examples. If I said, okay, I want to bring in 50 giant cruise liners from Cuba And I want all of these people to vote. And I also want to go to Eastern Europe, like Romania, Hungary, some of those places, former Soviet bloc countries. I want to say that all of them can vote. I guarantee they'll be very concerned about voter ID.
Oh yeah. Most countries have some type of voter. They got to.
No. I'm saying if we bring those people here, I'm saying that her and her ilk, if we're bringing in people who would, shall we say, vote right wing, anti-communist,
should be against
right down the line, then she would be the first one out there saying, "Oh my God, voter ID, we've got to get a hold of this. This is a giant problem." The same way as a lot of these same people were very, very concerned about the Second Amendment when it came to Alex Preddy. Didn't like it for anybody ever before, but when it came to Alex Preddy, then damn it, he was one amazing, upstanding citizen with that fabulous Second Amendment.
Oh yeah.
I actually,
it also makes it very hard for married women who.
I was just going to say, we talked about this before. It's not. It actually, there's an argument to be made that red state voters, women, poor white voters could be just as.
I know you think they're dumb too, don't you? Yeah, I mean that's the thing.
This is not even close. Listen, people, 80% of the country, 80%. This is not even close, right? This is an 80-20 issue. It's shameful but CNN has all these liberals on because they're going to tell you how you should feel about this.
I hear these arguments. I've heard Democrats all week long.
No, please don't. No, you listen.
There's a deflection from talking about Donald Trump's racism.
I'm actually there. You should be thinking about your constituents or your.
Yeah, I think they're smart enough to figure out how to register to vote.
Hold on. Most Americans don't have a passport.
Well, I love watching it.
Don't have access.
She's scrambling so hard, and he's barely said anything. I mean, that's how powerful his side is. Like, why? And then you just rattle off the facts.
80% of the country. He's speaking for 80% of them, 76% of black people, 82% of Hispanics, 85%. He's speaking for the 80% of Americans. That's what he's doing.
Non-issue
he's
here.
For us.
A passport. Many Americans don't have access to their birth certificate. Many women,
don't have.
Majority of women who change their names for marriage have to provide additional proof that they've changed their.
But you'd have to do that if you get a driver's license. If you open up a bank account, right?
How do they buy beer? How do they cash a check, Nate? How do you go to cash a check at the grocery store?
Yeah.
How do you do it?
So because my response, are they trying to get a driver's license, a library book, or because all these places they would have the same problem, right? Your last name on your ID, this. Yes.
And how did they get married, by the way? How did they change their maiden name? How did they prove who they were for their marriage damn certificate, as somebody in the chat pointed out? Yeah. I mean, it goes on and on. But hold on, Nate. We've got the idea here. I've got another video that represents the attitude. We've actually shared it before of the left, who I'm going to call Abby, and this other female are from the left. And this is literally the mentality they have. This is a clip from 9 years ago. This is an old topic from Ami Horowitz.
Do you have an opinion on voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad. I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely.
Tell us how.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs.
All right, so that's that one side. I don't want to play the whole thing, but you get the idea. So now let's go to.
So those are all white people. Let me just make sure. Those are all
correct.
white people from a liberal place who are now talking that black people can't get IDs. We're too poor, too dumb, and all these reasons why we can't get IDs.
Berkeley, I believe it's UC Berkeley.
So now
very educated. So not just white, but very educated people.
So now we're going to talk to black people who actually determined the 70% of black people who believe they can get IDs. All right.
This is New York. I think it might be Bronx. It could be Brooklyn. I don't know. Somewhere in New York.
All right.
I depend on the New Yorker here to tell me.
Their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has ID. Why would they think we don't have ID? That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID. So like we know what we need to carry around.
Yeah, everybody that I know have ID. Like that's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, ID.
Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this, some type of trick candy cameras?
I know, right? That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's that on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is?
Yeah, they're in Harlem. It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Do you have a problem getting there if you have to get there?
No.
All right, we get the point. But
but what I want to say is, look how condescending the argument is.
Oh God, yes.
Is that black people are so stupid that we can't get an ID that everyone has, right? Everyone has this ID. So it's literally at the point where these people are saying we're trying to protect you from yourself by forcing nobody that need IDs. We're trying to protect you from yourself. And these people are like saying, what are you talking about? It's offensive. We all have IDs. Matter of fact, we don't even know people who don't have IDs.
You mean like Scott Jennings said that you think black people are so stupid? Yeah. And then she goes, well, there's poor white people. He's like, yeah, you think they're stupid too?
It makes it better. You can go to any country county health department and get a certified copy of your birth certificate fax, but you have to pay for it. That would be the rub. For married women, they need marriage certificates and or divorce orders. Yes. So the rub is that if you need to pay for something to get the right to vote, then that's the rub, because that's where they say the poll tax.
Sure.
But the fact of the matter is everyone kind of has ID. So there's got to be some middle ground where if you don't have any way to
let's
get
go
ID,
further. If you want to exist within society, live on the grid, if you will, in any way, you need ID. Did you want to have a bank account? Can you just go open a bank account without an ID? No. Can you go cash a check without an ID? No. Can you do in the grocery store, bar, whatever? No. Can you buy a drink? No. How many things can you do, Nate, without an ID?
Virtually nothing. And I think Twisted Puppet is right. I think I think in the sense, everybody probably has an ID. It's probably, if you're talking about extremely small amount of people who don't have an ID.
And if they don't, there's a reason.
Yes. And there's an ability to get one and to vote without paying for it, because it's generally in the law. So thank you for the $5 Twisted Puppet. Buddy, yes. 305 Love 9. I like the name. Abby is saying that women are smart enough to get a marriage license, but not smart enough to get the ID. Got it. Yes. That's exactly what she's saying. And you need ID to get the marriage license. They just don't give it to you. Every day they say, where's your ID? So you get a marriage license, but you can't. It's like, what are we talking about here?
All right. Fire and Ice brought up a good point. Fair enough, Fire and Ice. Silly, Eric. Gen Z and Alpha doesn't even know how to write a personal check.
Oh,
you got me. You got me on that one.
Names in order to register to vote.
I have heard Democrats
Scott,
make these same
why don't you actually
arguments.
respond to the substance of what I'm saying?
I am, and
as
the substance
opposed
is
to
this.
making this about something that it's not.
You're saying,
okay, pause.
You're saying married women.
What is the substance of what she is saying? I love it when it's like you're not responding to the substance of what. Well, as a matter of fact, he actually is.
Let's try to bring. Let's first let me go back, because we did cut it off. Let's hear what she's saying, and then let's hear his response.
Thinking about your constituents or your
I think they're smart enough to figure out how to register to vote. Abby.
Hold on. Most Americans don't have a passport. Many Americans don't have access to their birth certificate. Many women, a majority of women who change their names for marriage, have to provide additional proof that they changed their legal.
So Nate, she's giving us the list.
I did not have a passport. I'm 55 years old. I did not have a passport until 8 years ago. I managed to vote. I managed to get a driver's license. I managed to have an ID. I know a lot of people who do not have a passport. As a matter of fact, probably most people that I interact with every day don't have a passport. They're not traveling overseas. They're staying here.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, you know what? I think I'm going to put that into the chat. I'm wondering how many people in the chat actually have a passport, because that is a bullshit distraction. You do not need a passport to vote. And her bringing that up is just ridiculous.
Well, it's at a different level, because my response to her with all these people would have been simple. Did I would say most of the people, most Americans, because she kept saying most Americans don't have a passport. I would say the high majority of Americans, I would say over 70 or 80%, because I would have looked it up, but the stat is like 80% have IDs, where 20% of Americans have passports. So having a passport has nothing to with having an ID, right? So what are we talking about here? Because just because it's like you're saying, the majority of people don't have passports, but they have IDs, right? And I'll say this, universally, everyone has a birth certificate or can get access to their birth certificate, which is how you determine someone's citizenship, right? It's where you were born.
Sure. Well, a social security card.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There are many ways, but it's lazy. It's trying to, again, it's more condescending than anything.
Names in order to register to vote.
I have heard Democrats
Scott, why
make
don't
these
you
same
actually
arguments.
respond to the substance of what I'm saying?
I am, and
as
the substance
opposed
is
to
this.
making this about something that it's not.
You're saying
it's not just about voter
married
ID.
women,
It's also about
black
who has
voters,
access
and rural people are too stupid to figure out how to register to
me?
vote.
That is not
what Democrats are making this argument all the time. It's crazy.
That is so offensive. Let me offer the truth.
I got to give it to Scott. He's in there throwing flamethrowers. He's not trying to hold nothing back. He got everybody screaming, "No, Scott!" He's just letting it loose right now.
I would love to see, that song, not song, I'm sorry, the show on Jubilee that they call Surrounded. Where they have like 20 people around one person. So one conservative surrounded. Well, that's Scott Jennings' life. It's just typically 4 to 5 to 1. I think he needs to go on Jubilee and just clean house, because that he spends every day as the guy. They need a whole team against this guy.
That same argument.
So that's Scott Jennings. Now, first, let me get the super chat. It says, "I live in MS.
Mississippi, I think.
I'd already required. You're already required
ID
to vote.
required. Yeah.
ID required to vote. If you left ID at the house or car, you sign a piece of paper and then vote, no problem. Yes, and then like sometimes in some states, if you don't,
I don't really care
ID,
for that personally. I think you should have to go back home and get your ID, but whatever.
No, but there's some people who like say if you lost your ID and you can only vote on this day, like you could sign an attestation and then come back later and with your ID and show that you are verified or whatever. So it's not like a zero-sum game. And this one, growing up with a liberal family and friends, liberal whites have always been this way. They use stuff like this to disguise prejudice. But the thing about this with me is that I always feel like it's the ultimate self-own, like defund the police, right? We're gonna defund the police. They defunded the police, and where does crime go up? In the same black and brown neighborhoods that they were pretending to care about, right? They closed down the neighborhood's destroyed, and then what they wind up doing, refunding the police. And how do they do it? They raise your taxes. So it's I
also
think it's
keep
great
in
to
mind,
virtue
Nate,
signal, but does it make sense?
a lot of this too is the people who are so quick to say defund the police and all that, especially the politicians, are often rich. They have their own security. They have other options. And every time they come up with this kind of shit, who suffers? The people in the neighborhoods where crime is a problem. It's like, the police, look at post Michael Johnson or whatever. Remember, the police are like, they just wouldn't patrol areas. They literally kind of started to pull out of areas like, we're getting so much crap here. And then meanwhile, the communities who are suffering, those communities are the ones who are often asking for more police, like the crime bill, the very famous crime bill that Biden, I think, was a co-author of, and it passed under Clinton. Who asked for that crime bill? Who was out there every day saying, you have got to lock these crackheads up until the end of time? You have got to stop this. You've got to stop. Was it a bunch of whites running around? Was it a bunch of rednecks running around? No, it was a bunch of black clergymen, and I'm using it as an umbrella for ministers, preachers, whatever you want, and communities who had suffered under the effects of the crack epidemic. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. And the one thing I think a lot of people fail to realize is that it was the preachers and the people in those neighborhoods really pushing for the crime bill. And because it was actually the reverse, the racism part of it was you weren't sending cops into the black neighborhoods. So that was the racism versus you were over policing. So it's kind of reversed now. Before it was like, you don't send cops into black neighborhoods because you're racist. They sent the cops in and made all these arrests. Now they say take the cops out because putting the cops in those neighborhoods are racist. So it's like, it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you vote, damned if you don't things.
Second story, same theme.
yeah, essentially. Here is
under the Save America Act, individual.
Here is the Save America Act, and this is CNBC. Supposedly it's neutral, and they're going to tell you the thing for and against. We can all listen to it because we didn't really go over what the Save Act was, so I think this will be good, so you can actually see what it actually is.
Will be required to provide that proof of citizenship in order to register, and on election day, required to demonstrate voter identification.
The purpose of the SAFE Act is to ban non-citizens from voting in federal elections and also to implement some kind of voter ID law where you would have to show your driver's license when you go to cast a ballot.
Now, I do want to ask this. What do you think about picture books, Eric?
What do you mean?
Like some states were trying to say they wouldn't do picture books where if you go to vote, you'd be a picture instead, and your name will be there, and then your picture will be there in the book. And then if it's you, they'll let you vote versus you showing an ID.
I mean, whatever. I think you just show an ID. The picture book seems like a lot more overhead and ridiculousness. I don't know. I mean, yeah, and not everybody looks the same as that. Anyway, it just seems like
because the ID
it seems like a waste of money and overhead. I'm not gonna. Maybe it works, but
that's the same thing an ID does, right? An ID you're matching.
Sure.
With and then it has a thing. So they were saying a picture book is the same thing as just take the ID and put in a picture book. So
okay, I mean it's still an ID.
Yeah.
It's just whether you have it or they have it.
Exactly. Exactly.
One.
My name is Justin Papp. I cover politics for CNBC. So the initial version of the SAVE Act that Chip Roy introduced and Mike Lee introduced in the Senate in late January would have required some form of ID at the ballot box that proved you were an American citizen. So something like a passport, for instance. There's an amended version of the SAVE Act that was introduced over the weekend that pares that back a little bit. Some form of photo ID would still be required at the polls to.
All right.
All these are fine. All these are fine.
Well, this is you need one of these to even open up a bank account.
You need one of these, period, to just get around, to buy booze, to buy cigarettes, to buy whatever. All of these are fine because it is a state. Really, the second item is what you want. These are all variants of a state-issued ID. A driver's license adds a privilege to said ID. But yeah, I'm satisfied with everything on that list. Do you have a problem with any of those?
Nothing. None of these.
But the list of acceptable forms of ID is longer and could include things like state-issued IDs. Importantly, college IDs are still prohibited under this amended version, which is a concern that many Democrats have. But
you don't have to be a citizen to have a college ID. This is
exactly. And you do need to have you can't go buy booze with a college ID. That doesn't give you age. Last time I checked.
Yeah, that's true.
Republicans are specifically targeting demographic groups, including young people that tend to vote for Democrats.
While the specific policies may have changed since the days of the Jim Crow South, the goal of the SAVE Act is the same: disenfranchising American citizens and making it harder for for eligible people to vote.
More than 21 million Americans don't have ready access to documents proving that they're American citizens. And something like more than 2 million people don't have a valid form of government issued ID.
Maybe because many of them are not American citizens.
Well, it's just eligible voters without documents.
Yeah. Maybe they're not really eligible voters without documents. I question that number. I'm going to say I think that that's bullshit. I don't think there are 21 million eligible voters. Now, keep in mind, that's going to be 18 years old, a U.S. citizen, without documents. I put that. I would like to put that to the test. Do you actually think we only have 50 million people, give or take, in our country? Mm-hmm. Of that, I don't know, 70, 80 million are under 18, so they wouldn't be eligible anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to say that 21% or 21 million of these people, these American citizens, do not have documentation? Bullshit. I'm going to say it's just bullshit.
I think what you're not doing is you're not listening. Like, you have to listen, and this is just what I've termed with liberals. Mm-hmm. You have to listen very specifically to the word choices they use, and I want you to listen to the word choice this uses very carefully. Listen to the word choice.
21 million Americans don't have ready access to documents proving that they're American citizens.
Did you hear that?
Ready access.
Ready access. In other words, I can pick it up off the table and go vote. You have to
pull it out of your wallet and go vote. You can go buy that 6-pack.
Exactly.
And still call me bullshit.
And they're saying that 21 million Americans don't have that immediately ready. So they're not saying you can't get it. They're not saying you gotta cost you money. They just said you don't have it instantaneously right now. Go vote. You got to go do another step to get it. That's why it's bullshit. That's why the whole thing is bullshit. And this Americans without government issued ID, 2.6 million. Well, if you notice, they didn't say eligible. They didn't, say, Americans. We don't know if that's 18 and over. We don't know if that just all Americans, because children don't have IDs. But even if I grant that number, right? There's about 200 million adults in America. That is 1% of the population who don't have government-issued IDs.
And by the way, the first number proves the second number is a lie and vice versa. Because what documents? If you're an eligible voter without documents, well, what's the document? It's an ID. Now you just said 2.6 million. So your numbers already has shrunk 90% plus, right?
Yeah, there's 1% of the adult population. There's about 2.5 million people. So we're talking about out of 100 people, one of them wouldn't have a government issued ID.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to ask the chat that question. This is another poll. Do any of you know anyone who doesn't have ID? There we go.
Any adult.
That's a good.
But I'm assuming they know what we're talking about.
Well, okay.
Would ID would make mail-in ballots harder? Yes. I think mail-in ballots would be harder, but I think you would have to verify that. You would have to verify their eligibility before. So, and then there's just going to be issues with mail-in ballots, but I think you can still do it. But I wouldn't know the process to it. But it would make. I think it would make, because you would have to prove, but your proof would be before you vote. It wouldn't be during the voting process. These are talking about people going to the polls and doing it, because let's say, for instance, if you're in the army or if you're overseas in, let's say, France, and you want to vote, that's the way it works. You would still have to do mail-in voting. A lot can change from when you take government pictures over 3 years. Let me grow up. But again, even with your ID, right? Even with your driver's license, if your driver's license hasn't changed, it's going to change too. So that's why generally, because I know there was one thing where they were to get around the ID issue. They were going to say they're going to take people's pictures when they register to vote and have like a little ID on the page. And then when you look at each person's name, you see their signature, their picture. So I'm assuming if it does change, then you just go take another picture. So, but again, I think because I don't think the ID is the only way you can verify a voter. I think you can do it multiple different ways. You can
I
have
think you
hand
could.
scanners like that, right? So
I don't care
there's
for the
multiple
picture book,
ways.
though. I mean, honestly, I think that the ID just makes more sense. And yes, technically, you may not look like your person, whatever it is. Fair enough. There are going to still be people out there who scam, but it's going to cut the numbers down so much. We get into that not even rounding number territory. That's the idea behind it. You know, I feel with like the ID check is like, yeah, okay, I could come in with an ID, you know, take somebody's ID and then say that I'm that person, blah 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 blah, and that might happen, but it's such a rarity. It's not going to swing an election.
See, it's my issue is that I think there's more than one way to skin a cat, and I think we're all focused on ID because that's kind of the simplest way to do it. But I like, for instance, when I fly internationally, when I go on a cruise, I have my passports with me, but I don't have to pull it out, right? Because I go to the machine and they scan your face. When I get in the plane now, I have Clear, right? And when I go to Clear,
but you chose to do Clear, Nate. You chose Clear, and you paid for it, and that was an arrangement. But some people are upset about being listed in a picture book. And I get that.
But what I'm saying is, some people are going to be upset about having to give the government their picture for the ID and all that. I understand that, but what I'm trying to say is, I don't think ID is the only way. I think the goal here is to be able to say this person standing in front of me is a citizen and legally authorized to vote. Now, ID is the easiest way, but there are other methods you can do. And I think the Democrats would be against them all. But I think there are other methods we can do. Having an ID is an antiquated method, but I think it's effective. Does that make sense?
Well, and they already can't, or at one point, I think, for example, absentee voting, somebody would vouch for a particular person who was unable to come in. Or, they did have some of that going on. Again, I agree with you that there's different ways or whatever potentially. The point is they don't want any kind of authentication.
Correct.
Because that's what you're really looking at, is authentication. So one side is saying you need to prove who the hell you are. We just need to know who the hell you are. And the other side say, no, we don't want that. And then you have to ask the question, why do you not want to authenticate the people who are voting? It looks suspicious.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
And something like more than 2 million people don't have a valid form of government issued ID. As things like voter ID have become more of a concern, particularly among Republicans, some states, mostly in the South, like North Carolina and Mississippi, have implemented voter ID laws.
But now I'm going to say this.
But Wisconsin's not a damn Republican stronghold. New Hampshire, no, not really. Anyway, whatever.
Well, I do want to say this. In Georgia, the New York Times did an article and found that in Georgia, with a photo ID requirement, it's easier to vote in the state of Georgia by multitudes than it is in the state of New York, where there's no voter ID requirement. Think about that, people. It's easier to vote in the state of Georgia, which is red on this list, and the blue one, New York, it is harder to vote. The New York Times called out New York for this. You have less days to vote, more restrictions on voting, more restrictions on registration, everything. Matter of fact, it was Trump's daughter who couldn't vote for her father because the voting was so restrictive in New York. So it's insane. But again, this is
you know why, Nate? I'll tell you why. Because it's a single party state, pretty much. So they don't worry about it. If anything, if you already control it, you're going to try to restrict it because you already have it locked in, right?
Yes.
So somewhere else where it's competitive, they're going to fight tooth and nail. So I bet you, Pennsylvania, they give a huge damn about making sure voter ID doesn't come through. But New York, who cares? We've got that one. California, who cares? They got that one, even though they, try to pull some shenanigans.
Yes. And I understand that, you want them looking out. Like, for instance, a lot of people don't know the most segregated school system in America is in New York City. New York City is the most segregated school system in America, more than Mississippi, more than Alabama, more than Georgia, more than Florida. New York City.
It goes further than that. It goes further than that too. Like they've done surveys. Guess where there are more interracial marriages? In the South.
I would suspect
because
so.
the South has had blacks and whites living amongst each other for a couple centuries. I mean, it's been a while. So yeah, there is some conflict, but honestly, there's a lot more intermingling of the races, if you will, in the supposedly bad parts of the country than in many other areas.
Yeah.
Non-citizens are not allowed to vote in federal elections, but there are certain territories like Washington, D.C. that allow them to vote. Elections are mostly state-run. States can decide their own laws around how they carry out elections, but constitutionally, Congress does have a role in legislating around how elections are carried out.
Because, if you think about it, a state is an agent for the federal government in elections. I don't know why the federal government doesn't do them anyway.
Trump just keeps banging this drum about the prospect.
Now, he's right in some ways, but wrong in other ways. In other words, the state can do form and substantive elections, and the federal government can regulate it, but just for federal elections, not state elections. So when it comes to the feds can say things like, you can't discriminate, you can't do this, you can't do that. The form, the time, the date, we can only do it on election day. But when it comes to state elections, the state can do whatever they want. So they're not agents, they're kind of partners. But the federal government has essentially a trump card to say, okay, we want you to do it this way.
Nice choice of words.
Yeah, I thought Trump card would be good. Many on the left are against a thing only while Trump or current Republicans is in office. Their positions is literally against Trump. You preach to the choir here.
I would say against the right, so to speak. So the left is against the right.
I'd even go as far as to say
if it was W, I mean, they hated W too. They hated.
Well, they love W now.
No, but he's out. Look, there's no more Republican popular with Congress than an ex-president.
That's true.
Except for Trump. He's the exception. But no, I mean, like they've come around and said, yeah, Reagan wasn't too bad. W hated W, but when W leaves and gives candy to Obama, Michelle Obama, oh, he's just a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
Dick Cheney is the biggest turnaround I've ever seen, where he went from war criminal to really kind of a hero. I mean, Rachel Maddow attended his funeral, for God's sake. It is insanity.
I'm going to say it. Dick Cheney is a war criminal. Don't get me wrong.
No, but I'm saying that's the left. The left said he was a war criminal, but then when he went against Trump, they loved him.
And Trump calls him a war criminal too. Trump calls him a war criminal too. So I do think Dick Cheney got some issues, but that's by the way he's got the beef
of non-citizens voting, and it's sort of reached a fever pitch in the past several weeks. He's raised concerns about the security of elections and about the prospect of non-citizens voting in elections. It can happen. It does happen occasionally, but it is already illegal. And there are strict.
So I do like the fact that, because that's the argument they're going to pull up, right? It's already a legal argument, so why do we need more laws? But that's the same thing. But then when you turn it to, let's say, guns, the argument goes the exact same way. They'll be like, hey, we want to pass more gun legislation. The right will say, we already have gun laws. It's already illegal to do this. Why do we need more laws, right? So it's literally, they are flipping on issues. When it comes to voting, they're using the argument against the Second Amendment.
Yep.
Penalties for anybody who tries to vote if they're a non-citizen. Fundamentally, most Democrats do not agree with the concept of voter ID. And so it's got a very difficult path to get to President Trump's desk. The Republican majority in the Senate is slim. More than a handful of Democrats would have to join their Republican colleagues and support the bill to get it over the 60-vote filibuster threshold. My sense is they're trying to make this proposal more palatable to Democrats. There's been this massive pressure campaign from the GOP, from influencers, from people like Elon Musk, in addition to Trump himself. They continue to point to public polling, which shows that the vast majority of Americans are in support of at least the concept of voter ID.
Now, I want to see how they...
Yeah, more mealy mouth. This guy is such an operative. It is sickening. The way he uses the language and... no, I mean...
You're statement analysis guy, so I knew you would love this.
Yeah, I mean... yeah, why do they go to the polls? Why? Oh, yeah, they like to go to those polls with those dumb Americans who voted that they wanted.
But I love this. They're going to say support requiring all voters to show government issue ID. Now this is overwhelming.
Yes.
Let's see how they spin this now. And this is a good way for you guys to see kind of what we look at when we see this. You see exactly how they're going to spin this into a negative positive for them.
But Democrats and voting rights groups say the devil is in the details. It's about how those voting rights laws are written and who they will potentially disenfranchise.
Absolutely no response to the actual issue, right? No response.
Yeah.
Just because the devil's in the details.
Kind of like what Scott Jennings was going through.
Yes.
Why?
Let's say something.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? I love that. Why?
It's crazy because I sometimes I just don't think that people that especially I think the liberals really don't understand what they're actually saying when they say these things about black people and minorities. I think they're like
they are paternalistic and racist, in my opinion. They know what they're saying. This is the sad, horrible truth.
He's calling this the Jim Crow. That it's insulting to people who suffered under the Jim Crow laws to say something like that.
I agree, but they don't think that far beyond it. And honestly, I think that genuinely these are a lot of elite people. They think these poor, dumb minorities. Scott Jennings said, "You think they're dumb?" I think that that's the truth. I hate to quote W. I don't like W in a lot of stuff, but he did come up with a good one. He said the soft bigotry of low expectations. And who was the biggest proponent of that? Who was one of the worst characters of all? Joe Biden. What did he say about Obama? Oh, he's so articulate. What does that mean?
The black man.
What? That'd be like me saying, look at Nate here. Nate's so articulate. How racist is that comment? I mean, think about it. It's completely racist.
Yeah.
And the right, here's the funny part is their bigotry, they think as kindness. And they think that the right wing is mean because the right wing is like, you could get an ID, go get it. Just do it. Everybody can do it. What's your problem? You're capable. So ironically, I think that the right is less racist in their attitude because they have an assumption that everybody is actually equal and capable. So the right tends to default to capability existing. The left tends to default to paternalistic thoughts like, you're just not culturally quite ready yet. You need to be on board. I have 5 paragraphs that's going to explain the nuance that you don't understand because I am so smart and you're not.
Well, since we're talking about elites, let's
Obama was clean too. Thank you.
Let's talk about our last story. So we all know about Epstein. We hear Epstein every day because they're looking through the 3 million documents. More comes out. Mm-hmm. But recently we've had some Epstein defenders, which I thought was like impossible. I thought we couldn't find anybody who would defend Epstein in any way.
Are they defending him or are they lessening?
All right. I'll go through. I have the clips prepared. So I'll go through with the clips. So the first clip. This is Lady Victoria Harvey, and she's on Piers Morgan. And she has a couple of defenses. Her first defense is, can we talk about the quality of the girls? She attempts to discredit child victims by questioning their character on live television. Piers Morgan is going to question her reasoning. So here it is. I'm gonna put it up on the screen so we can see it. And this is the woman right next to Pierce. That's Lady Victoria. She's a former girlfriend of Prince Andrew, who now is not Prince Andrew anymore.
Okay.
I've always been right about my conspiracies. You were wrong about COVID and you were wrong about the vaccine.
You don't give a damn about these girls. You don't give a damn about these victims. You think it's fine to smear all of them. You admit it. You proudly admit it. And I think it's
Why
shameful.
would I feel sorry for people that are liars?
We now know from these documents just how disgusting this scandal is, and yet still you come on shows like this and you're still in total denial for reasons that completely
can we
baffle
talk
me.
about the quality of girls? So Anushka DeGiorgio as an example. You know what she did? Like, this is the caliber of person we're talking about. Anushka DeGiorgio.
Actually, I'm not going to let you smear them. I'm sorry.
She was the girl
I'm just not gonna
that
let
set
you do
up
it.
Tom Parker
No, I'm not going to
Bowles.
let you do it.
No,
Sorry,
she
shut
did
up,
it.
Mike.
She did that one story.
I'm not letting you do it. I'm not letting you smear these victims anymore. I'm just not going to let you do it. Just cut her off. Ollie.
It's Morgan cutting a mic off. So what do you think about that? The quality of a girl. She's attacking the victims.
Well, I don't really know what she's saying because he was talking over her. And I think I know where she's going. I don't think I would use the word choice. The problem is there are obviously horrible victims. There's so many scumbags that are tied with Epstein is just mind-boggling. What she could be talking about, and I think there is a legitimate claim, and here comes the people clipping. There are those who were, I guess we'll just say victims of Epstein, who did collect a lot of money into the millions of dollars. Some of them individually did get like millions of dollars personally. And that was part of a deal that they signed and then they moved on. I don't know if that's what she's talking about, but I think that there are.
No, she's saying, well, just
and she named a specific person. I don't know that person's specific case.
All right, so this is the reality check that from again my research.
Okay.
There's a victim called Stacy Curvin. She was 13. She's noted between 13 and 14 years old, and she said that these things were happening to her from Epstein's Island back then when she was that young, and that's who she's smearing, the young victim. So she's saying that this woman lost credibility, and so she's trying to say that this young teen who says that she was blanked by Epstein. But she also says that Epstein was not a trafficker. He did not traffic because
I don't know what she was saying. And that's the problem. He's like, I won't let you, I'm going to cut off. And it's like, I really didn't get any of what she's trying to present. It's very frustrating.
Let's try this one. This one, she is claiming that the FBI says that Epstein was not a sex trafficker. So she's saying in the files, you're going to see the FBI says Epstein was not a sex trafficker. So saying that he's sex trafficking is wrong.
He had all his titles stripped quite rightly. But given what you've now, but given what you've now seen about what he was up to.
So let me just give you an update. Let me just give you an update. So as of within the last 24 hours, the FBI did a statement and they said, with all the information that they have seen, all the millions of files, everything, they have come to a conclusion that this was not a sex trafficking ring.
Well,
she stunned the panel into silence. Stunned the panel into silence. Does anybody? So, do you believe this was a sex trafficking ring?
I think he was convicted of it in 2008, so I'll just stand by that. I mean,
like Epstein was not. This is, obviously this is lady, so she's got some. But yeah, she said it wasn't sex trafficking at all. FBI concluded that.
That statement.
Let that sink in. It's all over. I sent the link to your producers this morning. So
no one's been able to find that statement. So you're talking about a statement. Nobody has seen this statement.
The FBI has said, and I will send it to your people afterwards, that it was not. So exactly what I told you in 2019. I said, Piers, these girls were not trafficked. And that word was too strong a word. Anyway, the FBI have recently said this in the last 24 hours. It was not a sex trafficking operation.
I think we're going to start. This sounds like there might be some semantics involved on the meaning of trafficking and not trafficking, because like prostitution is now falling under trafficking quite often. So some people argue it is, and some people argue that it isn't. I don't know where it's going, but I'll just go by, okay, he was convicted in 2008 of, I believe it's trafficking. I mean, it's kind of well-known, so.
I'm not going to be as nice as you. She's full of crap. He's obviously trafficking. the emails, you trafficking girls, you got this, you got this. There's plenty of evidence of trafficking in those emails. Flying this girl here, flying this girl here. Then the conviction for, you know, the prostitution and it's like, obviously he was trafficking both women and underage women. It's to say that and then not have any proof, she's obviously lying. But we'll go to her next claim, because her next claim is there is a famous photo of Prince Andrew with Virginia Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, Maxwell has come out and said the photo was real, and Epstein that took the photo, everybody said the photo was real. The only one
there are people who have been saying it's fake. There's one person who said it was fake. It was Andrew. Andrew started saying it was fake, and then now Andrew's person. But Ghislaine Maxwell says it's real. The court found it was real, and Virginia Giuffre. So everybody who was there says it was real, except for Andrew. Andrew's the only one. Now she's going to say that the photo was fake, and she's going to tell us the reasoning why, because I always think it's important. The reasoning why she believes it's fake. So here we go.
Yes.
Well, let me bring Spencer Coogan. Let me bring Spencer Coogan back on that, because you'll know better than anybody.
It's out there, and I will.
Spencer Coogan apparently none of it.
Oh, that's the wrong clip. This clip. Oh, forgot to switch the screen.
And Virginia Giuffre, and you said this.
Andrew has never carried a wallet in his life. He's got a wallet in his back pocket. There's many pictures of Jeffrey Epstein with the same trousers. Jeffrey did carry a big wallet in his back pocket.
So you're saying the picture was faked?
There's nothing real about this image, Piers.
Well, what is the motive?
Because I want this guy to stay alive.
But what is the motive
in this case?
What is the motive of the person who, in your view, falsified this photograph?
Oh, well, they were taking down the royal family, weren't they?
Well, who were?
Maybe Israel. Who knows?
The Jews.
It's always the Jews.
The Jews are taking down. Photo's fake because he's got a wallet in his back pocket. He's never carried a wallet. Photo's fake. Convinced? Did that convince you?
No, obviously. Well, and here's the all I could think about was that picture was taken in 2001 or two, somewhere back then, like over 20 years ago. And I'm thinking now everybody's answer is that's AI. Every picture was taken, that's AI, but they didn't have AI back then. And they did have Photoshop, but I have not seen any real analysis from anybody of any kind, any true expert of Photoshop or anything else saying that was a fake photo. Only, as you put it, like Andrew and a couple like her, I guess, supporting it. It doesn't look fake. It feels real. It looks real. The expressions are not overly posed. They look natural. The movements are natural. And the argument about he's never carried a wallet, well, he is out of country somewhere else, and it's very possible that maybe when he travels he takes a wallet with him because he never know what he may run into. He may have to pull out cash or whatever.
Well, how do you know that's a wallet in his back pocket? It doesn't have to be a wallet. It could be anything, right? He could have.
That's true too.
So just assuming he's a bulge in his pocket, he's got a wallet. None of that makes any sense. So I'm right now she's not convincing me. But she has another thing. She says being in the files is actually a good thing. Being in the Epstein files is a good thing because it shows that you're somebody. And if you weren't in a file, you're a loser.
There may be some truth to that, Nate. Believe it or not.
Here's what she says.
But exactly. So you've come to my very point when I said if you're not mentioned, you're a loser, because people that are mentioned in it might not have even had affiliation with Jeffrey Epstein. They might never have met him. But the fact is they were mentioned possibly in an email that was sent to him. Hence, they ended up in the Epstein files. Do you get it now?
Okay, let's discuss this a little bit, because what she's saying is really kind of disgusting, but there is an element of truth to the idea of there are many, many people of note in the Epstein files, like Joe Rogan, for example.
Yeah.
There was a very interesting Joe Rogan encounter. And by the way, Joe Rogan looks better than just about anybody in the Epstein files. because his name comes up as somebody who turned down Epstein to come on the show, and Lawrence Krauss is essentially apologizing to Jeffrey Epstein that Rogan wasn't having him on. But the reason why Rogan is in the files is because Rogan is important. He has a very big show. Epstein wanted to go on the show, and there, I'm sure, are many cases like that. There's also many parties that Epstein had, and events and things like that, and a lot of movers and shakers were at said parties, and it gets very difficult because while many people associated with Epstein are guilty as hell, there's a huge number of people who would attend a party because that's where all the people were, who probably were not guilty, or they just went home after the party.
Well, listen,
And it's hard to separate some of this information.
I'll say this. If you're not in those files, I think you are thanking God that you never were in those files.
Sure.
The people who are in those files aren't saying, oh, I'm so happy. Look at me, I'm in the files, I'm not a loser. The people who are caught in those files are like, oh, I'm in
Well,
the
I take
file.
that. Hold on. I could tell you
Even
for a fact.
accidentally.
Hey, Mark, my show partner is mad that he's not in the files.
But I'll say this: if you're in those files, I would be. I know there's a lot of people happier that they weren't mentioned in the files, and that's going to be the calling card. I was never in the Epstein files, but I think you're right. I think it's the difference between being mentioned and being somebody, and I think she's trying to glamorize the names in the files because her ex-boyfriend is in the files. So here is another one of her things. She says Epstein was not a pimp, because that was always the thing, right? That Epstein was a pimp. He was pimping out these young girls to the rich and wealthy. So she says, no, Epstein wasn't a pimp. He was a spy for somebody. I wonder who. Oh, hold on. I got to undo this because StreamYard is acting up again. Got to
lost the sound.
Yeah.
You got to reattach it and then check the sound.
Yeah, it's all right. StreamYard, you'll fix it one day. All right. Yes, this one's the one. Here we go. All right. So now we got the sound back.
It has built it up into this huge thing. Yes, obviously, Jeffrey Epstein was a spy. That is true. Like, he was working for various different intelligences. We know that. But the fact is, he was not lending out the girls to his friends.
He was.
Really?
We know that he was.
Everybody knows he was.
Sir, I don't know what your name is, the lawyer, but you obviously made a lot of money from this. Can you tell us what you made from this?
Can you tell us what you've done with Mr. Andrew? Can you tell us about your relationship with him and what he's told you?
I haven't seen
Why
him in
don't you
many
talk
years.
to us about what he's admitted to
I'm
you?
defending him because I know.
I like how you said Mr. Andrew.
Mr. Andrew, yeah, not Prince anymore.
He is not guilty.
And you know this because he told you
how do
this
you know
and he
that?
talked to you about it?
I know. Look, I've been very good so far. I was right about COVID. I was right about the vaccines. I was right about BLM. I'm right about this.
So, pause. I mean, somebody should just ask her, well, then why was he convicted in 2008? Was he or was he not convicted in 2008? Did he or did he not do his time in 2008? I mean, she's just full of shit, and she's talking around a circle on that. Was he a spy? He was, if not a spy, an informant, absolutely. And he goes all the way back into the 80s doing work with the CIA. Yeah. He was also an informant for the FBI. That is in the files. He was an informant. That was part of his deal in 2008. He got really a light, slap on the wrist. It was even worse than that. And he was informing on people. So what she's doing is hilarious because she's just going all in like another influencer who is very, very famous right now. And I shan't say the name because I just don't feel like starting it up, but an influencer who has dreams about things and determines that because of the dream. This seems like a similar logic pattern.
Well, she's making the argument that her friend is innocent. But we have one more person who had some interesting defenses to the Epstein thing. So we're going to play Megyn Kelly, and Megyn Kelly's defense, which is not really a defense.
Well, she's also defending another influencer. Anyway,
she says she creates a hierarchy of abuse. Now, from everything that we've learned from the Epstein files, there are two kind of classes of people who were trafficked. Like from Diddy, you have women who are trafficked. Now, they could be adult women, but if you move them for sex, it's trafficking, right? It happens every day. It's a big thing. It's a big human trafficking, they generally call it. And then you have sex trafficking. Then you have underage sex trafficking, which is more insidious and get you more time. But in both situations, it's to traffic people, women or adults and children, because Diddy, you could actually make the argument he was trafficking men. Cat Williams did.
You know what? I don't like the use of the word trafficking. I think that part of the confusion is it's a really wide net because they have the good old fashioned pimping, which I think he definitely was doing, and I think it was. Well, I know that. That's the problem. Is because when people hear trafficking, they think of a Connex full of people from another country being smuggled in, or underground, or coyotes taking them across the border in Mexico. There's a different level of it. And the term itself is a very wide scope. Now, I'm going to say Epstein pimped and trafficked. Now, I know they're the same thing, and I know it's redundant, so please don't correct me in the chat. I get that. But I'm saying if we want to rewind time a little bit and we say there's pimping and there's trafficking, and I don't think they're quite the same. I think the definition of trafficking's gotten so wide that it does cause some confusion because, child bleep trafficking is a whole scale worse than some prostitution.
I think we have to, let's scale it to what the difference between trafficking, just regular prostitution. So it happened in Houston. If you're a pimp and you're on the street corner, and you have girls who are working for you, and you don't move them anyplace. Hey, the girl meets the guy, they go have the sex, she comes and gets you money. That's what technically would be pimping, right? That's what most people call a pimp. The woman has sex, and you're essentially their protection. If the guy does something wrong or doesn't want to pay, you go and you're like the
protection, right? And extortion, I would call it.
It's protection and extortion. That's the classic form. But in Houston, they decided, they were like, well, hold on. They're not just doing this. Sometimes they're taking the woman from one place to the other. And it's under threat of force or coercion, right? If you don't do this, I'm going to beat you. If you don't do this. So you got the element of force.
Which, by the way, the whole time,
you got the element of moving.
I know, but that's what I'm getting frustrated with, because the idea that pimping itself is like, I dare her while local to not do the next job, or the pimp is going to beat her up too. No traffic involved, just nice and local.
Yeah, but so what I'm saying, but that was the first example. The first example is no traveling, no moving around, local. That's pimping. But it's trafficking when I say I'm going to take the girl to the hotel, when I'm going to take the girl here, and there's any threat of force or coercion. Now you've moved from just pimping to now you're trafficking, and that's what and so when that became the thing, all the people in Houston, all the pimps would get in charge with 10-year trafficking violations, then the misdemeanor pimping violations, because all the girls were being moved by the pimp. Boom, trafficking. So in this particular instance, you have to have the element of force, coercion, whatever, to have trafficking. And I'm saying that in these particular instances, when it comes to young people, it's automatically trafficking, right? You're not pimping young people. It's automatically, because the is that you're too young to consent to do that anyway. So it's also, but now, like in P. Diddy's case, the prostitutes who happen to be men, they weren't trafficked, right? They consented to go, and they weren't under any type. They weren't. They were consented. That's different. But in Epstein, you have the victims. So all these victims saying, "I didn't consent. I was forced to go. I was doing it. They took my passport, wouldn't let me leave." That's the trafficking. So I think in Epstein, it's clear you have trafficking, but you also have pimping. Pimping is just a subset of trafficking.
Right. But what happens by such an expansive term is you just say trafficking. And then some people argue like on the pimping side and be like, well, that's just this, blah, 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 blah. And it can be a distraction. Obviously he was doing both, in my opinion.
Of course, I think there's no doubt about that. But I would also say, in this video that we're about to see with Megyn Kelly makes because the argument is that Jeffrey Epstein was doing both of these things. He was trafficking young adults, young underage people, and he was also trafficking women. And Megyn Kelly is going to make the argument that Jeffrey Epstein really wasn't into young girls. He was into just younger looking women. But now that we have the Epstein files, we see for sure they were into young girls, 9, 10. Like the emails are very clear. They were talking about really underage girls. So I do want to say this is before the Epstein files came out, to give Megyn some credit. She didn't know this. So I'm assuming now that this new information has come out, her opinion would have changed. But this is what she said.
Oh, I'm sure she'll immediately release a statement changing their mind. She's known for that.
Yeah, I'm assuming she's going to change because now this obviously.
Sure she is.
Show. A nationwide uproar is erupting over Megyn Kelly's controversial remarks suggesting that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't really a pedophile.
He was into the barely legal type. Like he liked 15-year-old girls. And I realize that's
illegal.
Not trying to make an
excuse. That's not barely legal. That's illegal. Sorry.
15-year-old girls that's pedophilia. But she's saying 15. It's not. So again, this is not making.
Now 17 is borderline depending on the state, but
16 states are 16.
Well, that's why I said 15 though. I mean, she picked the perfect number because I don't know of a single state that 15 is legal.
Let me see what are the age of consent for sex in U.S. states. So I'm looking at consent, North America, age of consent.
I think it's 16 and higher.
You have, in the United States, the youngest looks like we have the youngest in the United States is 16, it looks like. Yeah, 16 is the youngest. And yes, so general 17. So you got 17, 16, 17, 18, nothing less, nothing 15. I don't see any 15 in the United States.
And that's why her statement right out the gate, very poor choice, Megyn.
Yeah. So yeah, she said 15-year-old would be, a pedo.
Period. Giving you facts that he wasn't into like 8-year-olds.
The backlash is fierce. Hashtag I was 15 is now trending on social media, with some posting photos of themselves at that age. 15 isn't barely legal, it's illegal, goes one post. You're defending a pedophile, says another. The women of The View took aim today.
They got to hit.
15-year-old, a 16-year-old is a child.
And
that is not a young woman.
Sweet 16.
Actress Melissa Gilbert is also speaking out about her experience as a 15-year-old who was made to share this first kiss with a 23-year-old co-star in the TV classic Little House on the Prairie.
Hold on. Do you realize how meta this is?
Yeah.
Can we talk about Melissa Gilbert's husband for a minute? You do know that, right? You do know that.
I do know, yeah.
Go ahead, Nate. You're the lawyer. Explain to us why we've got a problem using Melissa Gilbert as the example.
Well, but the thing is that, all right, so I think with Melissa Gilbert particularly, I'm going to say this. I don't actually think they're acting, number one, right?
Oh, sure.
This is different than what Epstein was doing.
And if he's 18, if the guy's 18 and the girl, Romeo and Juliet laws, I get that principle. But no. I just think it's hilarious that you picked Melissa Gilbert.
Well, that's them. So it is. I think this is bad for a multitude of different reasons. But it is what it is. It is what it is. But for those of you who don't know, her father died. He died by suicide. What else? And he was involved in some unspeakable things.
No.
Did her father die of suicide?
No.
Am I?
Melissa Gilbert's husband is Timothy Busfield, who is charged in New Mexico right now for CP, cheese pizza, actually for touching children. I mean, literally right now. Timothy Busfield, look it up.
All right, I'm looking it up right now. Melissa Gilbert's father. Let me look.
Not father, husband.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. All right. So you're talking about a husband. All right, I'm thinking about a father. Sorry.
And not CP. Worse than CP.
Oh yeah. I got it.
Actual bad guy. He's charged of the worst crimes imaginable right now. Hold on.
Melissa Gilbert's husband. Here it is. Got it. I'm thinking about her father, but here.
No, you're thinking about Ghislaine Maxwell's father, probably. But anyway.
Hold on.
Timothy Busfield.
No, I'm pulled it up, but I got a stupid ad-filled page.
Oh, you're supposed to be on Brave. You don't have the ads.
I was on Brave, but here it is. Okay, share this instead. We got it. All right. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa Gilbert's, like you said, husband, not father. I don't know why I keep thinking about her husband. But you're right. I think I'm thinking. So hold on. Who was the one that died by suicide? I could have swore it was her father, but maybe I'm thinking. Was it Maxwell's father that died?
No, he didn't die self-inflicted. He died on a boat way back when. Robert Maxwell. That's where they tie the Mossad stuff.
Oh, okay.
I'm just assuming father because famous father Ghislaine. Okay, but no. But Melissa Gilbert choosing her. It's just so hilarious because, by the way, this is January 27th. This has been breaking. We've been covering on America's Untold Stories for a while now. And Timothy Busfield has major charges against him. The worst. I'm just telling you. The worst of the worst of the worst.
They're out of New Mexico.
Yeah, Santa Fe. Yes. Ironically, the same court as Alec Baldwin.
Ooh, that's going to be interesting.
Yes, because there are some young actors that claim that he was doing things. Anyway, these are all charges. I'm not saying he's guilty, but I'm just saying it's a very poor choice of an example when you're talking about all this.
Through the lens of today, this is shocking. I have no words other than to say I was 15. She posted.
Yeah.
And Kelly's remarks were given the Saturday Night Live treatment.
Megyn Kelly made a terrific point this week. She said Epstein's not a pedophile. Terrific thing to just say out of nowhere. Great job, Megyn. We love Megyn. They should put her back on TV. Legalize Megyn.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what Trump was saying.
So we are at the 1.5 hour mark. So the show, we are about to end soon. But listen, guys, thank you guys so much. And you got to tell us, what do you think about these stories? Because this is insane. It's insane that it's insane because I think when it comes to Epstein particularly, I think the issue for Epstein is that everybody at the top is just, and this is just for me personally, I think they're all compromised. I think the left is compromised. I think the right is compromised, all at the top level. And I think when people are saying, why didn't this come out under Biden? I think that's the reason, because Biden, there's a whole bunch of Biden. I think a whole bunch of Democrats are compromised within these documents too. So this is mutually assured destruction for both sides. And I think we're seeing that kind of play out now.
Earlier, I'm trying to excuse people, but Epstein did throw a lot of parties with very, very rich and famous people. Closest I could think of is P. Diddy, or Diddy, or whatever his name is this week. And a lot of people attended those parties. A lot of people were there for money because Epstein raised a shit ton of money for different things and politicians and whatnot. And so the net gets really, really wide. And how do you start separating people at a party? Mick Jagger and Naomi Campbell were at an Epstein party. So do we lock them up? Do we say that he was doing it? Do we say she was doing it? I mean, a lot of people go to a lot of parties, and it is a true nightmare. I don't have the perfect analogy for it, but there are other rich and famous people who throw parties that everybody wants to attend, and then what if it comes out that they had a whole nother lifestyle and they were doing what Epstein did behind the scenes? Well, then everybody who attended the party now is under the microscope, and it's kind of complex.
Yeah. Last super chat. Hey lads, apologize if you touched on this already. I heard in the SAVE Act, it had amnesty for illegals and spending, I'm thinking, of bills to drop without notice. I don't know if it has amnesty for illegals in the SAVE Act. I don't think so. It's a Republican bill, so I'm assuming Trump wouldn't sign anything like that anyway. Like that I don't think that would have the votes to even make it. So, but with that being said, thank you guys so much for joining us. And again, we'll see you tomorrow on Laid Back Law. We'll see you next week, Thursday, back on this channel. Let us know how you guys like these segments. We're going to chop them up into smaller segments so you don't have to watch a full hour and a half session every time. We're going to try to chop them up to 15, 20 minutes, like quick hits, so you guys can see the back and forth videos and all that stuff, and make it shareable. But if you guys like the conversation, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, and do all that great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate. For Eric, we're going to see you in the next time.
See you.
All right, you're in my courtroom now, Buster. And let me tell you, there's so many of you here that are downright guilty of not subscribing to Laid Back Law, yet watching full-blown episodes. Why don't you get your life together and just hit that button already? We all know you need it.